Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. I'm Tony Haggerty, Haggerty10 Twitter handle. You know that. And I'm joined today by Sean Martin at Sean Martin TCW. You also know that Twitter handle as well. Very familiar to you all. Sean, beautiful Sunday. Happy Monday.
Yep. How you feeling, Tony? Magnificent?
I'm feeling magnificent. Yes, indeed. Magnificent. Celtic stretched their lead at the top of the table to 7 points, courtesy of a 4-2 win over Dundee United and Rangers 2-1 loss in Perth to St Johnstone yesterday, which was the bonus ball all weekend for Celtic. But we'll get to that in a second and all the fallout from the Dundee United game. First and foremost, the housekeeping. We ask you every day, subscribe to the Celtic Way, supporting top quality journalism, covering the club that you love. And you know what I'm going to say, it's £1 for 2 months of full access to everything that we write on the website, and there's some wonderful stuff on there. There's some wonderful stuff celebrating Celtic's 135th birthday from the weekend. You can join us, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. You know what to do, guys. Hit the button. There's something on the website for everybody, and you also get access to the pods and see myself and Sean's happy, smiling faces, especially when it's a happy Monday. Sean, Andrew Galea, good evening all. Great weekend for Celtic. Indeed, Sean, it turned out to be a great weekend for Celtic. Good morning, Celtic, says a retro Celtic. Good morning to you. They left it late, but it would have been a travesty and an injustice had they not won that match, Sean.
Yep, and as David Ferguson says, what a day to be alive. I think, we'll start with the positives, Tony. We'll start with the performance and the result.
Yes,
before we get into before we annoy ourselves. Before we annoy ourselves by getting into the other stuff. I agree with you. I think they were extremely good value for their win. Good performances all over the pitch, I would say. In particular, Anthony Ralston, Matt O'Reilly, Jota, and Sead Haksabanovic. That's the four I would single out. I also naturally thought Greg Taylor's 45 minutes were also high quality, Tony.
Pivotal, I think you'll find.
We'll come to Alexandro Bernabei in a minute, but I didn't think he was having a bad game or anything. But the booking and the fact that Dundee United had to get a goal back and stuff, putting Greg Taylor on actually proved a really settling kind of sub. Yes. And I genuinely do. Even the stats better out. His 45 minutes were an impressive 45, but I don't want that to sound as if I think Bernabei wasn't playing well, because I thought he was playing all right.
Sure, indeed. Now, Sean, plenty of incidents. We'll take it as they come along. Sead Haksabanovic gets off the mark. First 2 goals for Celtic. Excellent to see that. I think it's what his play has deserved, or his recent play has deserved. He's starting to show that he will be a big player and a vital player for Celtic moving forward.
Yep, and I still think he's got 1 or 2 gears to go up. I've already been impressed by him, and it's good to see him finally actually hitting the back of the net. He also obviously caused that own goal against St Johnstone, was it?
Yes.
But that was his first official couple of goals. I think there's plenty to come. I think he'll be one of the most important players in the second half of the season if he's fit. Really impressed by him. Also impressed by his versatility, because I thought he played well when he moved back and played kind of attacking midfield, one of the eights. Played on the left and played well. He's played on the right a couple of times now and played well as well. So again, it just adds to the kind of depth of wing play that Celtic can call upon. And I think he was worth a mention now.
And the other winger, Jota, the man can do no wrong. And he just danced and teased his way up and just floated balls in, and you just know what you're getting with Jota, don't you? He is a player that I say in Larsson-esque in the sense that he can lift you out the ordinary sometimes, can't he?
He's one of those guys that all the talent in the world with the ball at his feet, right? But he does actually put in a shift off it as well. I know sometimes, occasionally people might question it. I don't. The stats bear it out. He does put in a shift when he's on, but more to the point, he never flatters to deceive, despite the fact that he flatters a lot. If you know what I mean, with the kind of footwork that he can pull off, he has the end product. Since he joined last year, you're talking like basketball terms. He's a double for the season. He'll get you double figures for goals, double figures for assists. He's on to do both again already this season. He's just, especially when you look at the other wingers, he's kind of got to be doing that, because Abada, for all he might not even play well a lot of the time, his output coming out his ears. So you need to be, if you're that kind of player that Jota is, you can't just be the technical player. You need to marry it with output, and he does it on both fronts. He gets goals, he gets assists, and I think when you think back to last year, Tony, he'd only just come in the door near the end of the transfer window, and not played a lot of first team football, certainly not regularly, and certainly not for a team of Celtic's kind of stature and attacking intent. But it was the 1-1 draw against Dundee United that kick-started that. Well, I suppose a draw doesn't kick-start anything, but you know what I mean? It was the first game of that unbeaten run. And I remember writing at the time after it that Jota was only just in the door, 21, I think at the time, 22, and just new to the team. And although they were struggling, the team seemed to look to him, and he seemed to be quite happy to take the responsibility on his shoulders. I think he had to post like 3 times that day.
Yeah, the personal vendetta against the Woodward, didn't you, that day?
Aye. Now, I know they never actually won that game, but I always felt that game showed you the kind of importance that he was going to have to that team, and if anything, he's became even more important since then. So Dundee United must hate the sight of him. They must hate the sight of Leila Abada. They must hate the sight of Celtic in general, to be honest with you, Tony.
Indeed, there's a cracking comment in there that someone said that they reckon they've seen about 234 last-minute winners against Dundee United. It's always Dundee United that Celtic score last-minute winners against. Don't know why, but it just is. And it just seems to be like that in history. You also mentioned Matt O'Reilly, another player that I gave 8 to on Saturday. I just thought he was outstanding on Saturday, I have to be honest. And his corner, crucial flick from Ralston. You mentioned Ralston as well. In fact, the 4 players that you mentioned were the ones that I gave 8 to in the player ratings for that very reason. I thought they were excellent.
The ratings, the comments there, Tony, if anybody wants a wee read. No, but Matt O'Reilly, I've taken him in particular. I mean, his stats in terms of pressing and stuff always show up well. I say that on here all the time, even though some people say, oh, he looks as if he's absolutely gassed after 60-odd minutes. If he is gassed, that's because of the effort that he's putting in the first 60. But since he moved back to play the 6, I would argue his creativity's been kind of curtailed somewhat, which I suppose is natural because same happens with Callum McGregor. Your starting moves, you're not up in the advanced areas as much as what you'd like to be, or that kind of stuff. So that's natural. But on Saturday, O'Reilly managed to kind of do both to a great degree. He was top for pressing, top for counter pressing, did his defensive work where required. Although I'd argue never had to do a lot of that really. But he also took the most touches in the game overall, took the second most shots and played the third most key passes. And it was like 3 key passes, so it's not like 1, it was 3 we were talking about. So I think a word for him, I think you were right to single him out in your ratings. I think he's been asked to fill in the unfillable, the role that Callum McGregor frequents, as well as the fact that he's 21 while he's doing it. Far more naturally creative and attacking than that role maybe allows him to be on occasion. But on Saturday, he managed to marry the two of them together. He was creative and he done his role as the 6 with the defensive stuff, but also setting moves on their way and stuff like that. So I thought he was outstanding again,
And Anthony Ralston.
Yeah.
What a crucial flick that is, by the way, for Kyogo's goal.
Mm-hmm.
Can you underestimate how important that was? It took a lot of players out to play and allowed Kyogo just to run in and get his head on it. Basically, put it on target. It's a goal, which is what Kyogo did. Great run from Kyogo as well off the defenders to see that and just kind of lose them. But yeah, Ralston for me was excellent as well. He really was.
I was talking about key passes, Tony. I said O'Reilly was third. Jota was first with 6, right, which is a lot for the one game. Second was Anthony Ralston with 5 from right back.
That surprised me.
Superb. And on Ralston, I mean, I'm going to bring Taylor up again, but as I say, Taylor's second 45, or the only 45 he played, was outstanding. But of particular highlight in Taylor's 45 was that goal line block from Glenn Middleton's dink.
Yes.
But what actually stuck out to me about that was if Taylor missed that, guess who had also thought to bust a gut to cover the goal line as well? Anthony Ralston. Because when you look at it, he's directly behind Taylor. He got there as well. So if Taylor missed it, Ralston would have got it, which I just think speaks volumes that it was those two.
Yeah, of course. And it's all about their understanding and reading of the game and situations, that game management, knowing what to do, where to be.
Yep.
And I think the manager has drilled that into them. He said he drills it into them, and they really have. They're 2 guys that have listened, taken on board the style of play that the manager wants to play, and they've embraced it, got that buy-in, and it's no surprise, as you say, that he was behind them. So if the first one didn't miss it, the second one was getting it. So I don't think United would have scored regardless. I did notice that myself, Sean. So it's a good one to pick out and spot.
David McGregor with his tongue firmly in his cheek here. Tony, will Callum McGregor even get straight back in?
You know he will. Now,
sorry, just because we're talking about Ralston and O'Reilly, I suppose, but so I was looking at the data yesterday, which is up on the site. I'll put the I'll put the link in the comments. Usually when you get a Celtic pass network, I've put these up before, and it's like the nodes, the kind of circles, and it shows you the passes between players, and if they're red, they've been really involved, all that kind of stuff. Usually it's left side bias with Celtic, so Taylor, McGregor when he plays, Hatate, and then Jota, usually they're quite clustered together, quite all dark red for good passing sequences and stuff. On Saturday, it was the opposite. It was the right-hand side, and it was Ralston, Carter-Vickers, O'Reilly, Turnbull, and Haksabanovic in a big cluster in the right flank, the right half spaces. And I know Jota ended up with the most key passes, and he was on the left, but the rest of the kind of key players were those players. And I just found that intriguing, that it was the opposite was true on Saturday. Indeed. And also the way that Ralston came through in the data like that as well. So worth a nod.
Indeed. Now, Celtic left it late, Kyogo and Leila Bada added to Haksabanovic's double, and not before Dundee United gave them a scare, and not before, we have to address it, Sean. VAR.
Andrew's a step ahead of you there.
Yeah, and now the obligatory VAR chat, indeed, Andrew. Now, the manager was very animated. He even said himself that he kind of struggled to contain his emotion during it, and he didn't handle it particularly well, I think was his phrase. But I have to say, Sean, now I can see a graphic here, and it's the IFAB rules you're going to dig them out.
I'll throw them up. I'll throw them up.
I, for the life of me, and we spoke off air when we were watching the game, the two of us, and we just couldn't, we were incredulous at that penalty decision that was given against Banabi. And not just the penalty decision, the yellow card as well. I think it's an absolute disgrace that you get yellow carded for that. Disgrace that it was a penalty as well. And how can that possibly be a penalty? And
I was going to say, Tony, we've had almost 2 full days to calm down and assess it, so we're going to discuss it in a nice calm manner. But the more you think on it, right, the more annoyed that you naturally get about it. I tweeted out the IFAB rules during the game, which I will put back the screen now. My dog also disagrees with the penalty decision by the sounds of it. So I'll put them back on the screen now, for the benefit of this section only, and I feel I should probably keep it handy this season, to be honest with you, Tony. But first of all, right, notice at the top of the screen or the top of the rules that it clearly says not every touch of the hand is an offence, right? So you go into it with that, and maybe you'll come to the decision I thought should have been made. So the next 2 bullet points are the key ones in it. So first one talks of intent, deliberately touching the ball with their hand or arm. To me, it definitely doesn't meet that criteria, does it, Tony?
Nope.
The ball's crossed in, he's jumped to head it away, just missed it by the width of his fringe, and is still in mid-air when the ball strikes him. So, to me, there is no intent there whatsoever. It cannot meet that criteria for the first bullet point. I take it you agree?
Oh, without doubt, yeah.
Second bullet point now, touches the ball. It says touches the ball with their hand or arm when it has made their body unnaturally bigger. It goes on to state that they run the risk of being penalised if they have their hand or arm in that unnatural position. Now, what does that sentence mean? IFAB tells us they consider they consider it to be unnaturally bigger when the position of the hand or arm is not a consequence of or justifiable by the player's body movement for that situation. Now, I don't see how Alexandro Bernabei's positioning meets that criteria either. Because as we have said, he misses the header by a fringe's width and is literally still in the action of jumping when it hits him. Yeah. So I don't see how it meets either of those criteria. The third criteria is it basically the opposite end, a handball to score a goal, that kind of thing. So you can kind of ignore the bottom one. But the first 2 bullet points, I do still, even watched it back, I still do not see how it meets either of those criteria. And you mentioned the yellow card, because that's actually the more baffling part of it to me. Because referee David Dickinson and VAR official Willie Collum combined to reach the conclusion that not only was it a penalty, meaning that they thought one of those was probably the unnatural possession thing, was true, but also he was booked for handball. So apparently they thought it was deliberate, because the only thing I can see the booking would be for would be unsporting behaviour, handling the ball to interfere with or stop an attack, implying it was deliberate. So, Tony, I still don't get it. I still don't get it now.
I think we're left scratching our heads, and that's what the manager made a point of saying, that they are now re-reffing games, or your understanding of the rules is being twisted and bent on a weekly basis. Because I think there's a freeze frame still where Barnaby is in the mid-air and the Dundee United players also in mid-air.
Aye, because they both went for the same cross ball and they're both trying to flick it.
But their arms are exactly the same position, aren't they? So you try to tell me that that's a natural position,
I mean, obviously again we'll hear this all season.
Unnatural position.
The term subjective and interpretation and stuff will obviously be thrown about, and there is a degree of that, obviously, because at the end of the day, the technology shows you what's happening. It doesn't make the decision for you. The VAR official or the match official make the decision, so it's their interpretation. But I do think that their interpretation in this instance was wrong, judging by the actual rules as IFAB have set them out there. So. And judging by the comments, there's not many that disagree. So,
and Ange said it himself. He said he doesn't have a problem with VAR. It's how they're implementing it.
Well, we've got Ange's comments here. I'll put that back down for the moment. But Ange said after. I mean, we've got another VAR discussion to come, Tony. Remember, but Ange Postecoglou said after the game that he was probably more frustrated than anyone else. He probably didn't handle it too well. I don't know if that was an unintended pun. But he says, I've no issue with VAR, but they don't have to use it in the way that they're using it. The decisions that they came to came to a lot quicker, because obviously it took a while to do it again. He kind of mentioned that nobody goes to the football to sit and wait for someone else in another place to make the decision and all that kind of stuff. He did clarify it's not an issue with VAR as in the technology, which is kind of what I was saying there. It's more the length of time and the way that it's been interpreted.
Sure.
He also afterwards made that quip about any handball in the box, apart from if you're playing Hearts away and stuff, which was quite funny. But to me, Tony, it seems whether or not it was a penalty is irrelevant to the point he's making with this. He's saying it's taken far too long already to get there, regardless of whether it was actually a penalty or whether it wasn't. Teething problems, subjectivity, it's all, to me, a different way of saying that there are still problems with the quality of officials in Scotland. And the introduction of VAR is ultimately only as good, as I say, as the people that are interpreting it. No?
Yes. And that's the point he's making. He's also making the point that if that goes to VAR, Alexandro Bernabe's, why wasn't the Michael Smith incident? Why didn't that? Well, they say it did go to VAR, but the referee never bothered checking that. So I think he's sort of saying, well, we're on this. We'll be calling it out now. And he called it out on Saturday. You have to say it's the first time that you've heard them actually.
I was going to say, he must be frustrated because he's made a point of not bothering.
But he never mentioned any official specifically. He's cute that way. No. He never mentioned them by name. He's just sort of saying, as you said, he's asking about the interpretation of the rules, but he's asking how the penalty instant at Tynecastle can differ, or the handball incident at Tynecastle differs from Alexandro Bernabe's, and he's quite right to call it out, but he's very cute about it, and he's not naming officials or, so I agree with you that I think he has to start calling it out, because it's these are the head scratchers, Sean. These are the ones where fans leave the football utterly bewildered and frustrated and angry. More than anything else, anger. But as you say, it's not the only decision. Can someone explain to me why Craig Sibbald's high boot on Giakoumakis didn't result one in a foul for Celtic and a yellow or a red card? And I'd say it's I'm not borderline. I say it should actually be a red card for serious foul play, because he catches him very high. And there was nothing decided there. There was no foul for Celtic, not even a warning to the Dundee United player. I don't even know if it was checked. Was it checked? No, it was checked, wasn't it?
Aye, it was checked. Aye.
Series
What I was
play.
going to say was just on the length of time. Sorry, before we get to the series full play, the length of time thing that Ange Postecoglou was talking about. You hear, as I say, teething problems and all that. But I watched some of Milan versus Spezia on Saturday night, and the players, coaches, and staff were all going mental during that
Yeah.
game because VAR took over 4 minutes for a decision that wasn't all that complicated, really. And Italy's had VAR a lot longer than Scotland, so teething problems to me isn't the same. Even in this early juncture, teething problems isn't the same as officials just taking ages to adequately interpret what's happening on the park. Just wanted to put that in there as well. And aside from anything else, we've mentioned this already, and we'll probably say it a lot in the coming months and years, but a lengthy VAR check gives opponents a breather that they otherwise wouldn't get against this Celtic team. Tony Postecoglou himself has
he
already
referenced
said
it. Yeah,
that it
he
can
referenced it
undermine,
after
undermine the
Hearts game,
intensity.
saying that Celtic are all about tempo.
Yep.
And this thing could be detrimental to. And it did, because when Celtic, at 1-0, Celtic were cruising, Sean. I thought, and Dundee United got back into the game with a decision which was incredulous, and it disrupted the Celtic's flow. But it was 1-0 going on 2 or 3, and then all of a sudden that just rocked them for a spell. And Ange is aware of it, and he's seen it, and he's telling people, as I've said before, what's the thing you do with Ange? You listen, because he signposts it, he roadmaps it, and he tells you. That's exactly what he did on Saturday. It's the first time I've heard him. And people were saying he had a rip and he did this and that. He didn't have a rip. He was perfectly calm. He even said himself, I probably didn't deal with it or handle it. But he's always very particular in the way he speaks, in the way he chooses to speak. He doesn't rant. He doesn't blast officials. He makes salient points. And again, I go back to it. You listen to him, that nothing that he said's out of control there, Sean. It's not a rant.
Nah, it wasn't a rant, no.
He is calm, and he is giving his point, and he's saying, in that great quote about people didn't fall in love with football to have it decided by a guy in a room miles away. So if that's the actions or the words of a man that's ranting, then we're in the wrong game, Sean. You know what I mean? So he was cool, calculated, calm, and measured. But yeah, David Gillespie, I thought so, and he was just saying, "Listen, I'm aware of it, and I will now say my thoughts, and I will tell you what I think." And it's the closest thing I heard to a Celtic manager calling it out and saying, "Look, we're seeing this. Don't know what you're seeing, how you're interpreting it, but we're seeing it, and we're going to have a say on it," which I quite liked.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. To get to your series foul play, talk, Helen Freak says it was disgusting high tackle. She thinks it was a red card. Mark E says the studs up foul. It looked accidental. The United player pulls away at the last, but it is still a foul. Now, to me, Tony, the thing is, in real time, right, I thought Giakoumakis is getting a bit high here, and then Sibbald ended up even higher. It was like a big boot from the Undertaker. I remember him, WWE. He misses the ball and rakes down Giakoumakis' abdomen. So it does come under the serious foul play rather than violent conduct check due to the fact he was going for the ball. But within that check, from what I can see in the kind of IFAB stuff and the kind of stuff we were sent pre-season, they'd have been looking at whether they endangered the safety of Giakoumakis or used excessive force or brutality. Now, the excessive force or brutality, given he was going for the ball and stuff and both had their legs up, I'd say that bit's debatable, right? But I certainly think that he met the criteria for endangering Giakoumakis' safety.
Yes.
And as I say, before VAR was rolled out, we were sent a kind of toolkit with reminders of what VAR is intended to be used for and what it's not. And one of them is red card offences, but it specifies straight reds rather than yellow cards or second yellow cards. So they must have come to the conclusion, Tony, that it did not endanger Giakoumakis' safety, and therefore it wasn't a straight red. And because of that, they also couldn't give him a yellow because that wasn't what the check was for. That's the way I'm seeing it. That's what I'm kind of taking from the situation. Whether they thought it was a yellow when they looked at it or not was almost by the by because they were checking if it was a red, not if it was a yellow, that kind of thing. But I would say it should have been spotted first goal as well. So
the more I see it, the more I think it's a red, Sean.
I think he endangers the safety, so I think that the case is there to be made. But as I say, that'll be why he never got the yellow for it either.
Yeah, and Celtic never got a foul either, did they?
No.
So again, another decision that's come and gone where Celtic are the victims of possible rough justice. And I'm not asking for favours, Sean. You're asking for fairness. You're asking for these rules to be sorted out. All you want's a level playing field.
For me, you're asking for the same thing that we brought up when it was announced VAR was going to be implemented, which was full-time officials absolutely dedicated to being full-time officials, basically the best officials in the nation in terms of this is their sole job rather than a part-time thing. Now, that's not for me to say that they're not dedicated. They obviously are. You need dedication to be a referee to begin with. But in terms of not being full-time, I still think that makes a big difference. I still think it's the logic. It was actually the logical step before VAR was implemented, to be honest with you, Tony. But when they made it clear they were going to implement VAR before people were going to go full-time, I just kind of made my peace with it, right? That's the way around it's got to go. They're putting the cart before the horse. But if that's the way around, we need to accept it for it to be a reality, then fair enough. But this is probably going to go on for a while until the new stock of referees that are full-time comes through, really, for me. And I don't think that's a dig at the current crop. I just think it's a reality that most football developed nations will have full-time officials, and I think Scotland should be doing it. So,
without a doubt, I also think as well that the current crop are incompetent at best. I'll leave that there, leave it hang there. But what I want to know is, at times with these things, is what's the official seeing or not seeing? In a lot of
I've seen a few comments saying they should broadcast the audio of the kind of
conversation
discussions between them. I don't see that happening first and foremost because I think referees in football are a protected species in that regard. But in terms of actually having to explain their decisions, I mean, but obviously, I watch a lot of basketball. American sports in general are kind of ahead of the curve with that in terms of explaining decisions. The NFL famously, there was a comment saying this, that the referee famously goes into the middle of the park and broadcasts to the whole stadium what the ruling is and why he's kind of given the ruling that he is. Not everybody always agrees with it, but it still gets broadcast and explained at the time. I know that in basketball, there's a 2-minute report, final 2-minute report that gets submitted. The referees and officials need to explain their decisions that tangibly affect the game in the final 2 minutes. There's nothing like that in football, really. I know they submit their own report to the referees, like supervisor and stuff, but you never get any sort of fronting up in terms of the way that the Americans do it. I like that kind of thing. I do think it would go a long way.
Because it's what Ange was talking
happen. I don't expect it to happen. As I say, football and referees is a weird relationship. But I know down south. Sorry, Tony.
It's what Ange was talking about on Saturday because it affects your understanding of the rules or what you thought the rules were, which was one of his comments on Saturday.
I know down south, Gary Neville mentioned this, that I didn't know this until a couple of months ago, but the commentators of a live broadcast, which I know that wasn't apart from Celtic TV on Saturday, but for instance, if Gary Neville was talking about Sky, I didn't know at the time, but they can hear through their feed what the referees and the VAR are saying to each other. So that's why they know what the decision is going to be a split second or a couple of seconds before it gets flashed up on the screen before the people at home know. So I don't know if that's the way that it is in Scotland. I presume it would be if Sky are broadcasting the same as it's the same company that Neville works for. I presume that they would be able to hear. Now, obviously, it's not up to the broadcaster to do that. It's up to the officials and stuff to actually opt into that. But I just find it intriguing that Neville said that they can hear what's been said and therefore they know before it's flashed up on the screen. So it's not like the technology isn't there, but I wouldn't expect it.
I've said before, if you can understand the decisions and get an explanation for it, then it would enhance your understanding. And obviously, you said there, you might never agree with it, but at least you'll know why. And I think
Martin and Tony was on the radio the other day, Tony, speaking about Kenny Clark, and saying he often disagreed with his decisions, but there was a fair amount of time where after he watched it back in footage, he thought, well, I can see why he came to that decision and different things, or after speaking to him and all that kind of stuff. So it's not like we're saying they're always wrong. Sometimes they actually get it right, and it's more a case of this is my interpretation. All right, actually, I can see your point, that kind of thing. But Saturday, I disagree. Saturday, I think it was wrong from the get-go. So there we go.
Yeah, I think.
But for what is ending a positive, I suppose, Tony, in some way, because at the end of the day, it was a beautiful Sunday. It was a happy Monday, and it is a happy Monday. They are 7 points clear. So
Indeed.
I'm trying to think of a positive because we've dragged ourselves right down into a right good mood.
A rabbit hole.
Aye. What about the youth team, Tony? What about ending in a positive with them? They won 6-2 at the weekend. Beat Broomhill, or Open Goal Broomhill, if you want to give them their Sunday title. But a certain Rocco Vata scored a hat-trick again, Tony. So we end on the high of speaking about Rocco Vata and another youth product that's shining.
Yes, indeed. And also he could legitimately soon be pushing for a first-team place or being in and around the squads, and that would be good to see, because I think a lot of people at Celtic have high hopes for Rocco Vata, don't they?
Yes, aye. Still 17, is it?
Yes.
Has he turned 17? Aye, 17. I think, well, first of all, the other scorers were Ben Summers, Adam Brooks and Joey Dawson. And I mean, you can't get away with talking about Rocco Vata when he scored a hat-trick. But we'd all love to see another academy product making the breakthrough, Tony. Everybody loves it. You absolutely love to see it. But in Vata's case, he showed up well in pre-season, the limited chance he got. But it's going to be really, really difficult, Tony, because when you think of the depth that Celtic have got in the wing positions just now, Jota, arguably the best player in the team. Sead Haksabanovic, as I say, only going to get better. Leo Labada, one of the best of his age, arguably in the world, certainly in Europe. James Forrest coming back onto a game. Dyson Maeda, who's one of the manager's favourites, I will still defend him. He's still effective. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
The depth that's there, if they're all fit, I almost feel sorry that Rocco Vata's coming through at the time that he is, because you can't justify it, really, a lot of the time.
I know that, but I think a lot of Celtic supporters, it would warm their hearts to see him come on the. Yeah, David Gillespie. So hopefully we hold on to Vata, because Doak's turning up level, and Doak is doing very well. And you would hate Rocco Vata to go down similar lines. Simon Thomas is saying time for Vata to use opportunities at Celtic. Yeah, indeed that. So I mean, it'd be nice to see him featuring in first team squads, and who knows, Ange might hand him that accolade quite soon. You want to end on a positive, Sean?
Mm-hmm.
Sydney Super Cup.
Okay, aye. Mm-hmm. As it stands.
Mm-hmm.
On you go.
Your old dad's going to be there, isn't he?
As it stands, we're sending Tony, barring any last-minute hiccups, we are sending Tony Haggerty down under. So Tony will be on tour.
So those people
all the
who were
ones
asking
down under that are on and have been asking, fingers crossed, unless there's any last-minute hiccups, you will be seeing Mr. Haggerty.
I'll be leaving. I'll be leaving next Tuesday on a jet plane.
Don't know when you'll be back again.
I'll be back again. So for all those that are asking that, it looks like Retro Celtic. Tony, you coming back? Indeed. So I should see you in Oz, and if you do see me, come up and say hello, and and it'll be good to talk. All right, and say thank you for your subscription as well, and in person, and thanks for your comments that you put into the comment section. We appreciate it, don't we?
David Gillespie's figured out how you're getting there, Tony.
That's exactly. I'm going through there, the Chronicles of Narnia through there. You know that. It's a long way, Tony. No, I know that. I got the itinerary this morning, and I'm realising, it's a long way indeed. But we'll get there. So yeah, hopefully, as Sean says, with barring any last minute hitches, everything going well, I'll be there for the Sydney Super Cup. So really looking forward to that. Try to keep a lid on the excitement, as you can possibly see. But yeah, we'll be in touch with you about that and speak to you more about that nearer the time.
Tony, Beach Boy saying you journals get some jollies, man. I'm going to start a podcast. There's journal singular. It's only him that's going. I'm not going.
Indeed, I appreciate it that it's I've never lost sight of the fact that it's quite an honoured and privileged position to be in to do stuff like this. And yeah. So thanks for that.
Edward of Oz saying, bring your wardrobes along for Tony to sign. Superb.
Indeed. So yes, indeed, Susan. I am a jammy sound. I don't not think that at all. But yeah, so we'll, as I say, we'll keep our lid on that till nearer the time, and then we'll see what plans are.
Mm-hmm.
Sean and myself, and we'll talk to you, and I'm sure I'll be talking to you from down under at some point. So looking forward to that. But yeah, it's been a wonderful weekend, guys. You had
It has, Tony, just on the note of the weekend, you all know it was the 135th anniversary of Celtic's founding back in November the 6th, 1887, yesterday. So we kind of wanted to make a deal about it on the website. So I'll put the links in. Kevin McKenna decided to do his 135th, the Celtic 135th birthday column on the greatest team to ever do it, Tony, the Lisbon Lions. He puts forward that there should be an official Lisbon Lions Day, make it official, May 25th every year, to ensure that it's basically immortalised and enshrined, and there is no moving on. There should never be moving on for the Lisbon Lions. On top of that, we kind of collated some what Celtic means to some ex-players and staff members. Some surprising ones in there, like John Barnes and maybe Big Pierre and Jock Brown and all that are in it as well, but more stereotypical heroes are there as well. So have a read of them. Hope you like them as well.
Yeah, and we also did, surprisingly, it was the 55th anniversary of the World Club Championship trilogy, wasn't it?
Battle of Montevideo.
So despite the fact that Celtic are 135 years, it's not all been happy times, Sean, has it? So I spoke to John Fallon about that. So it's that's a good read as well. Just his memories from that time when Celtic were runners-up in the World Club Championship of 1967. So there's something on there for everybody. Have a read, guys. You'll really enjoy it.
David Ferguson saying, would that be a day off work then, Sean, for the Lisbon Lions Day? I would like to think so, David. Best to ever do it and all that. National pride. Angelo Tyro, but we'll end on this. Sorry, no, it wasn't him. It was Gary McDowell. We'll end on this comment, Tony, and give people the image of yourself doing a Bush Tucker trial. Gary McDowell says, are you actually going on I'm a Celeb? Get me out of here, Tony.
Indeed. Imagine that. I'll just declare my hand now. I'm the fastest eater in the world, so I couldn't do the eating challenges. But most other things I think I could cope with, but the eating one, probably not. But so nice one. Guys, thanks for your well wishes. Thanks for your comments. Really appreciate it. And Sean, thanks for your contribution today. First class. Brilliant weekend for Celtic. 7 points clear at the top of the Scottish Premiership. As I say, beautiful Sunday. Happy Monday. Doesn't get any better than that. Have a cracking week, guys. We'll speak to you same time, same back channel every day, Monday to Friday. You know what to do. And if you're of a mind, subscribe. You know what to do. Hit that button. £1 a month for 2 months of full access. All you need to do, join us. www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Thanks a lot. Really enjoyed that today. Take care. We'll see you all tomorrow.
Cheers, Tony. Cheers, guys.